What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another match review stream for you guys. But you know what? Instead of starting on a negative note, I thought we'd start on a positive note today, because I think a lot of people out there need a bit of positivity today after yesterday. And Spurs have just equalised. The Spurs women's have equalised in the FA Cup semi-final against Leicester at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Just nearly went 2-1 up if it wasn't for a great save by the keeper as well. But we are 3 minutes into the 6 minutes added on of stoppage time. It is 1-1, and it looks like it will be going to extra time. So if the quarterfinals heroics was anything to go by,
oh my word, so
nearly
close.
Scored again.
Jesus.
But it is on BBC, so if any of you guys want to watch the game, the Spurs women are pumping Leicester at the moment.
It's all Spurs at the moment.
It really is all Spurs. We could be going 2-1 up pretty soon if time doesn't run out.
Yeah, or off the knee there at the back post. Bloody hell, so close, just wide. Come on, the ladies.
I think I prefer just to focus on this than talk about what happened yesterday, to be fair.
Maybe we'll just go to full time, and then once it goes full time, we'll start talking about the shit show that was yesterday.
Yeah, but we are 2 minutes to go of stoppage time.
Let's just see how this
we'll
plays
get it on
out.
the big screen. Come on, Spurs.
Little watch long for you. Oh God.
Here we go.
Come on.
Spurs
it's
on
been
the
all
attack
Tottenham
once
past
again.
few minutes. Oh, that's a bad ball. They should have played out wide. Oh, Rob out.
Go, guys. Spurs bidding to get into their first FA Cup final ever for the women's, and the first time for Tottenham in general since 1991.
Oh God, here come Leicester.
Oh, this will be gutting if Leicester get this attack now. Into the last minute of stoppage time.
Kajal. Neville's been absolutely rinsed. Oh, it's good defending though. Looks like it's going to go to. I'm sure it goes extra time, right?
Yeah. So they won on penalties, I think, last time out against Man City in the quarterfinals. I'm not sure who the other semi-final is.
It's being played at the Tottenham Stadium. People on the women's ratings. Oh, here we go. Good football.
The other semi-final was Man U Chelsea.
Oh, nice play. Oh, couldn't get away from the centre mid. Yellow card. Booker.
Yeah, 30 seconds to go. Looks like this will be going extra time, guys.
Yeah, deserved booking. Terrible challenge. I suppose Spurs favourites going into this game.
Not too sure.
Is there going to be some last gasp action here?
Well, they're not favourites at the moment, so I doubt it.
Probably not then. But from what I've been seeing, it's been all Spurs. Nice play, Neville. And it's full time, 1-1. We are going extra time at the Tottenham Stadium. So I guess we'll keep you updated with all developments.
Yeah, I guess if it goes down to penalties, we'll switch back onto it. But hopefully Spurs do get a winner in extra time. But look, let's put that to the side for a minute and let's talk about what happened yesterday. Spurs got battered at St James's Park, 4-0. And as I was watching it, goal one go in, goal two go in, I did get major PTSD from last year. And I was thinking before the game, like, surely that's never going to happen again. And they would use that hurt from last season and take it into this game and really put on a good display. And for the opening stages of the game, I thought that was going to be the case, because we did have chances, didn't we? You know, Brennan Johnson playing a lovely ball into Timo Werner, Werner blazing it over the bar, and we were opening them up a little bit at the beginning, getting chances. But I mean, as soon as that first goal went in, you could just see heads drop, and it just was nowhere near good enough from anywhere. No one in that team yesterday, from top to bottom, substitute, starting lineup, manager, anyone was at the required levels for a game of Premier League football yesterday.
Yeah, we completely crumbled. I think there's no two ways about it. We completely crumbled when we conceded that first goal. We allowed that Newcastle crowd to get to us. We allowed that Newcastle wave to completely throw us off kilter. And I thought for the first I thought for the first, as you say, 20 minutes or so, I wouldn't say we were phenomenal, but it was a very even game. Obviously, Newcastle were hitting us in behind and looking dangerous, but we were looking dangerous as well. I thought that Newcastle were leaving loads of space in midfield. They were allowing us the ball a lot. I thought Maddison was picking up some really good positions. I thought Werner was buzzing around in interesting spaces. Brennan Johnson, he completely burned for one moment down that right-hand side as well. It looked like he was going to give him a tough ride. And then one long ball over the top. Doggy makes a horrible mistake, and then Romero and Van de Ven completely getting a muddle to deal with Gordon and Isaac, and bam, we're 1-0 down, and then 20 seconds later we're 2-0 down because Porro makes a suicidal back pass, and bam, we're 2-0 down within a minute. And all of a sudden, at that moment, with how Newcastle felt like they were approaching the game, 2-0 down, it was going to be so difficult. It was going to be near impossible to get back in it. It seemed like as well that Spurs players just heads completely dropped at 2-0. It was like they gave up because Newcastle were approached the game with where I wasn't sure how they were going to approach the game when I saw the lineup, but it looked like actually they dropped into a back five off the ball and were being very, very defensive. Murphy was playing wing. Murphy and Byrne were playing wing back with Kraft, Shah, and who else was it in the centre? I can't remember. Sorry, it was like Barnes was playing like wing back with like Byrne left centre back.
Yeah, with Murphy and Barnes on wing backs.
Yeah.
And then it was Dan Burn, Shah and Kraft at the centre backs.
And then like Gordon and Isaac as a front two. And they completely did a job on us. And then once you make those mistakes at the back, you give them a 2-goal lead. You're pretty much playing into their hands. That's exactly what they're looking for. The game played out exactly how Newcastle wanted it to play out, and we allowed them to do it. And it's just so disappointing and frustrating that literally the first goal was one long ball and they're in behind and in our goal. But let's be honest, those first two goals we conceded, horrible mistakes at the back, horrible individual
errors. Embarrassing, Destiny Udogie and Pedro Porro. What the hell are they doing? What are they doing? Nowhere near the levels, nowhere near the required levels we need to go to a really hard place to go in Newcastle, where they clearly had a plan for us. Eddie Howe it was a bit of a tactical masterclass from Eddie Howe yesterday, but that doesn't warrant for the performances and the mistakes from a lot of those players yesterday. Destiny Udogie was completely embarrassing for that first goal. Pedro Porro must have had nightmares from when we went to Newcastle last time, because he was shocking that day. And he was just as shocking again this time out. He was playing with an injury. Ange said that he felt something in the first half, and he did go off early in that second half as well. But it doesn't give up for what actually happened on that pitch. I mean, I just was looking at it, and I couldn't even watch at times. I thought it was just so embarrassing from everyone involved.
It was so easy for Newcastle to get into our back four, and it was a combination of really poor play in the final third where we couldn't make the ball stick. We were giving the ball away so simply. Weren't playing those risk-taking passes where we were looking to get in behind. We weren't taking those risks. We were playing it very, very safe. And not only were we playing it safe, but when we went to kind of hold the ball in those areas, we were giving up so easily. And then once we gave up in transition, Isaac and Gordon were just in every single time, just one long ball in behind. And it was so easy for Newcastle to get in behind our back line. And it's not the first time that's happened this season. When
one ball, and that was it. One ball, and that's our defence is completely split open. And how is that good enough?
And I understand, Van de Ven slipped over twice for the opening two goals, and he could have done better.
Third as well.
Caught out for the third, but I'm sorry. For the first two goals, he's making up for other people's errors. There are two massive errors from Udogie and Porro who have put us in the shit, and he's basically scrambling to make up for it. And yes, he slipped over, but I think the focus on Van de Ven is completely unwarranted in those situations. I don't see anyone pointing out Udogie and Porro completely screwing up in those situations. And because Van de Ven has slipped at the vital moment to save the day, he's the one getting the blame for it. I find it ridiculous. All the focus on TNT after the game was, look at what a bad day Van de Ven had, what a shocker he is. He's completely scrambling around because we've been put under pressure by two horrible errors by our teammates. So I feel like the criticism of him is completely unwarranted.
Let's be honest. Mickey Van de Ven has been doing this time and time, not what he's showed on Newcastle, but he's been making up for people's mistakes at the back time and time again all season, and he's made it look effortless. And this one time he couldn't recover for them. He slips up in two vital moments in the space of 2-3 minutes. And yeah, of course it's going to get highlighted on, because it's not what he's been showing all season, and it was probably most definitely his worst display of the season. You've got to say that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I think this notion that like he's to blame or anything like that, I think is completely ridiculous. Like, he's the one getting ridiculed, and when I think he's probably the least to blame out of all these goals. You know what I mean? He's like there's all these things that happened before that led to those moments, and then like you've got Van de Ven in a one-on-one situation with Isaac and a one-on-one situation with Gordon. Those aren't situations you should want to be. Any defender probably wants to be in, and they're very difficult situations. And yes, Van de Ven has dealt with a lot of those situations so far this season. Probably not like that though. Most of the time it's when he's running in behind and he's the one getting ahead of him, right? And he's got the pace to get ahead of those through balls. This is a situation where they have the ball and he's facing up with them in a one-on-one situation. That's a different situation, and that's very, very difficult to deal with, especially when you've got Gordon and Isaac, two very good dribblers, two very good players facing up with you. So I feel like like people focusing on him for those goals is completely missing the point of why those goals happened, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, I do agree with you. But like I said, I do think we have seen Mickey van der Ven recover and make good challenges from those positions. But, you know, the Newcastle attackers just got the better of him on the day. And I think it was just a culmination of so many different errors. At least with Mickey van der Ven, he showed a willingness to try and defend, a willingness to try and get back, and a willingness to try and stop these goals. From the rest of the defenders, it was just completely embarrassing. I mean, I keep going to the word embarrassing. That's exactly what it was on that football pitch yesterday. A super chat here from Eugene Park saying, I completely disagree. That is Van der Ven's job. He is supposed to clean up as the last defender.
I disagree. He's not supposed to. His job isn't to be put under pressure by shit back passes and then be set one-on-one by Isaac and Gordon. His job is, yes, when a ball's played over the top, his job is to get to it first. I completely agree with that. But when he's matched up a one-on-one inside the box with top strikers like Gordon and Isaac, his job is not that. We shouldn't be in that position. Those positions he shouldn't be in. When he's running in behind, right, when there's a ball played over the top and then there's an attacker running onto it and he gets there first, that is what the plan is.
The third goal.
The third goal, probably you could maybe say that's more his fault, I would say, than the other two, because he should be in a better position than he was in for those goals. He completely allowed Isaac to run off him. I would say for that third goal, I would say he's the most at fault for that one than the first two. The first two is not his fault, in my opinion. He shouldn't be put in that position, and it was a fault of the overall defence and the team that led to him being square on with two of the best dribbling attackers in the league. So that's my opinion.
We're letting him be on his own against a class players in Alexander Isak and Anthony Gordon every single time. And it's not good enough from a team level. Like, we need to be playing with each other, backing each other up, and we're just making mistakes in the defence and going, all right, Van der Ven, it's your turn. Just mop up. You can't
have Porro play a back pass straight to Gordon and say it's Van der Ven's fault because he didn't stop Gordon putting it in the back of the net. Like, come on, guys.
Absolutely,
it's ridiculous.
Spot on. Look, I completely agree with you, but it just wasn't good from anyone involved. No. And like, after those two goals, well, the first one, let's say, like, heads completely dropped, nowhere near the required levels. You're looking at Spurs teams in the past under Jose, under Conte, under all these teams that just let their heads drop after things go wrong in a game and never seem to recover. And that's what I saw yesterday on that football pitch.
Yep. And that Spursiness reared his ugly head. Obviously, we saw signs of it at Fulham not so long ago, and happened again yesterday, 100%. You as well, second half, right? You think we're 2-0 down against a very depleted Newcastle team. Yes, we haven't had it all our own way in that first half. We made two really bad errors. But you're thinking, you get the next goal, we can maybe get back in the game. They're not going to have the substitutes really to change the game. We've got a deep squad. Yeah, and that second half, we were even worse. In that second half. We actually created 0.16 XG in that second half, which is a pathetic amount. We didn't lay a glove on Newcastle in that second half, and then again one long ball over the top for Isaac, and it's 3-0, and it's like the easiest goal in the world. Sonny was giving the ball away in such poor areas. He had an absolute mare, and also we didn't touch it yet, but like every bloody set piece they created a chance every single time. I'm pretty sure they had 16 corners. I'm pretty sure from like 15 of them they got to the first ball. It was
absolutely ridiculous. I was watching the set pieces and had a keen eye on these set pieces. No one is tracking anyone at any of these set pieces. I'm looking at it, I've been like, you guys have been brought up professional footballers, professional defenders, World Cup winning defenders. Mickey van der Ven, who's like so tall. You've got Destiny Udogie, who's tall and good in the air as well. You've got all these kind of players who have spent their whole life learning how to be a professional footballer and defending, and none of you are tracking your men. I don't understand what is going on. I just don't understand it. And like, we've seen it time and time again, right, over the past few months, or all season really, where we've been poor at defending set pieces. But this one just took the piss. It really did take the piss. About, like you said, 14, 15 corners that we were defending yesterday. They could have scored from about 10 of them.
Yeah, it was a joke. And then they scored from the last one.
We were so lucky that they only scored from that last one. And that last one, when Shah, like, is there anyone around Shah? Anyone? No. And we've seen how many goals Shah has scored over the past 6 months or however long it's been, 4 or 5 months. He's scored about 5 goals, mainly from set pieces. And not one player is picking him up. Not one player is tracking him. Not one player could be asked to just make a challenge. It's ridiculous.
And I don't want to hear Ange say, because Ange was asked about this last game, or when the last time we conceded from a corner, and he was saying, it's not a big issue. I actually think we've been all right from corners and stuff like that. I think we've dealt with them, and sometimes we create chances from counters from corners and stuff like that, which is true. We actually have been quite good at countering corners, but I'm sorry, if he looks at what happened yesterday, and he doesn't see the problem, and he doesn't see the pattern and how we're defending corners and how vulnerable we are from these corner situations, and how we're just giving up chances for free, and we're not getting to the first header in any of these corners. And not only that, we're giving away so many corners as well. We're giving away 16 corners like we did yesterday, and we're giving basically the opposition 3 chances at every single corner. If he can't see an issue there, if he thinks that's okay and that's just how set pieces should be, then that's a serious issue, and he has to take full responsibility for that, because he doesn't have a set piece coach. He has coaches assigned to set pieces at the moment, and going forward, attacking set pieces as well, we don't look dangerous at all. We look so easy to deal with and defend. But the big problem is defensive set pieces. We're a joke. We're an absolute joke. To me, it looks like we're worst in the league when we can't do anything from these set pieces. It's ridiculous.
And you know what? If that set piece, if that kind of defending from set piece happened in a Sunday league game under 14s, that would be called out on. Mm-hmm. This was happening time and time again, and it's not just this game, right? It's not just this game. It's plenty of games this season, pretty much week in, week out. We're embarrassing from conceding set pieces. I mean, how many goals have we conceded from corners and attacking free kicks this season?
I don't know about this season, but in the last 10 games, we've conceded in 6 of them from corners.
You know what I mean?
So that's a big problem.
It's a joke. And we in the last couple of panel shows, we've brought up topics are we over-reliant on Mickey van der Ven? Well, yesterday showed, of course we are, because, yes, I know he slips at the vital moments, but we're clearly just allowing these mistakes to happen and expecting Mickey van der Ven just to mop up every time. We talk about the need for a set-piece coach. Well, if yesterday didn't highlight that more than anything, then I don't know what will. Like you say, 6 of our last 10 games we've conceded from set pieces. So these things need to be ironed out as soon as possible. We need a better defensive structure as well in these kind of games, because you saw the areas where Newcastle were hurting us, and it was a pretty consistent method of how they were doing it. And in the second half, we didn't address it whatsoever. We just let it fester, let it carry on, and just thought, all right, yeah, maybe we'll just get away with it. But no, we couldn't even lay a glove on them in the other end of the pitch.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we were literally horrendous going forward. We were horrendous at the back. It was an absolute shit show from start to finish. I think Maddison acknowledged that after the game as well, that it wasn't a case of us being unlucky or us just not being in the game. It was just a case of they were better than us and we weren't good enough. That was the reality of what happened yesterday, and it was actually a massive opportunity because we saw the injuries Newcastle had. They're playing bloody Jacob Murphy at right back. They got Kraft playing. They got a midfield three of Longstaff and Anderson playing, and yet we were the ones who looked like we had 13 injuries, not Newcastle. And it was an absolute shambles. When
I saw the lineups yesterday, when the lineups got released an hour before kickoff, I was licking my lips. I was like, look at this Newcastle team. Surely, if we're ever going to win at St James's Park, this is going to be it with this lineup that Newcastle have. But they completely bullied us in all facets of the pitch yesterday, in every single one. And you're talking about a fully fit Spurs team, pretty much, bar Richarlison. Like, I think this is what the second game that we've lost with first choice back four this season. And you talk about a team going for top four and a team that are mulling it around in mid-table. I know they went, I think, sixth yesterday with that win. But Newcastle were the ones looking like they were going for top four yesterday, and we were the ones looking like that we've been struggling all season trying to get sixth or seventh in some sort of Europa League or Conference League football yesterday. That's what it looked like. And I'm sorry, but I think we've been getting away with it for a few weeks now, and away from home. It's not been consistently as bad as it was yesterday, but we've won 2 games away from home since the beginning of November. Yep. Our away form has been shocking. We've been getting away with it because we're good at home, and we've been getting results at home, and we've been turning around the games at home when we've been 1-0 down in the first half and stuff like that. But you look at our away performances, just on a performance level, like how many of these games can we actually say hand on heart that we've performed well in away from home since the beginning of November? I don't think many.
Yeah, it's. I think away has been a big concern. I do think there's a weird thing going on at the moment where there's not been many away wins in the whole Premier League, to be honest. So maybe there's something about home advantage which is taking its toll right now in the Premier League. But our away form, I think it's 2 wins in the last 10. We're fifth overall in away form in the whole Premier League, but if you most of those points actually did come in the opening 10 games of the season. Yeah. And since then, we've really struggled away from home. I think we've only beaten Forest and Villa since October away from home. So there is something about our away form where we can't seem to assert ourselves on the game in the same way. Obviously, away games are harder. That's natural. We know that home advantage is a thing, especially in the Premier League. It's always going to be harder away from home. But we shouldn't be... I can say we shouldn't be this poor, but that's also part of the process, I guess. So... I don't know. Maybe we just have to take it for now, and we have to work on our away form. As long as we're doing very, very well at home, and we've won 8 of the last 9, so that's a big positive at home. But away from home, we can't seem to play the football we want to as consistently or dominate games. But there's 2 ways of looking at it. You can say that is away games. It's always going to be harder, and that the process is you're not going to be smashing it away from home straight away. That's also going to take time. But on the flip side, we can't just sit here and say 2 wins away from home in the past 10 is good. It's not good.
It's not good at all. And I want to go through these away games as well, because just to highlight how poor we've actually been away. So Newcastle 4-0, obviously probably the worst of the lot. 1-1 away at West Ham a couple of weeks ago. Probably a deserved draw. I don't think West Ham deserved to win. I don't think we deserved to win that game. Fulham away 3-0. That was another embarrassment where Fulham completely bullied us throughout that game. Villa 4-0 that we won. That was kind of the exception to the rule, where obviously we were very good that day and Villa weren't at the races. Everton 2, Tottenham 2, Man U 2, Tottenham 2. Both of those were probably deserved draws. Brighton, when we lost 4-2, we got completely embarrassed that day, apart from a late rally. Then we beat Nottingham Forest 2-0 in an okay performance. 3-3 against Man City. We got away with one that day because in the first half, they could have scored about 5 or 6 goals with the one-on-ones that they were missing and everything like that. And then Wolves, when we lost to Wolves 2-1, that was the first game after we had all those injuries and suspensions and stuff like that. And Wolves, as much as we were winning up until the 90th minute, Wolves were the better team that day and deserved the win. You got to say that. So, we have had difficult situations where we've been injured a lot, and we thought, once all these players are coming back, we'll get back to the levels that we did in the first 10 games, but it just hasn't worked out like that.
No, and there's definitely a concern, especially performances like yesterday. When we have a fully fit squad and we have players on the pitch where there's not really too many excuses to put in a performance like that, to be honest. To be that bad Like, I understand, maybe it was an even game, we can lose 2-1, I can understand that. But to be so heavily beaten on all facets of the game yesterday, going forward, defensively, all these kind of things, there's no real excuses. Like, we have a back five yesterday, which was our first choice back five, which has performed very, very well this season. Like, if we're going to have a back five like we did yesterday, and we're still going to look as open as we did in that game, then when are we not? You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking at that back five: Porro, Udogie, Van de Ven, Romero, like Vicario. That's probably the back five we're going to be going into next season with. That's probably, I don't see too many chances to upgrade on that for next season. So I don't use the excuse Ange doesn't have his team or anything like that, because he does have his back five that we used yesterday, and we're still really, really open. Is it just a case of, the more we learn the process, the more we get in tune with what Ange wants us to do on the pitch, then those things will be ironed out. But, we're now in April. And look, I understand it's still his first season, but still, we're in April. We shouldn't be getting absolutely trounced, I would like to think, like we did yesterday, and especially against a very depleted Newcastle team. So it's definitely a bit concerning. I'm not sitting here saying I'm Ange out or anything like that. Of course not. I'm very, very happy with the direction we're going in. But results like yesterday, performances like yesterday are a bit of a red flag, I have to say.
Massive red flag. I would caveat it a bit, saying, like, when you look at Arteta, when you look at Pep, when you look at Klopp and their first year, 2 years, they also took some battering. They also conceded a lot of goals. But I think the difference is that they probably didn't have in their first season their starting back four, their starting back five, their starting, they had a lot of changes to make after their first couple of seasons.
Yeah. But what I would say is if I remember rightly, like, a lot of them, had pretty good ends to the season. I built on that for the following season. So look, we still got 6 games left. We'll see how we face this really tough run we've got coming up, and maybe we can still build some momentum going into next season. But at the moment, the especially away from home, the performances are leaving a lot to be desired, and it's going to take an almighty effort now to get into that top 4 after yesterday's result.
Yeah, I mean, Villa do play Arsenal today, so I don't expect Villa to win that today, but to be honest,
but that's one of their hard games gone then.
Yeah, it is one of their hard games gone, and if they don't take a battering today at the Emirates, then they'll probably end today in 4th, right? What's the goal difference after yesterday?
I think they're only one ahead.
So look, it's going to be tight from now to the end of the season, but after you put in a performance like that, you have to respond. And our next game is Arsenal at home, and then we go to Liverpool.
Bloody hell.
So it is going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. And I don't mind, I can sit here and accept, losing games, but what I can't accept is seeing the heads dropped and seeing the application and seeing what I saw from the players on that pitch yesterday. Even Cuti Romero, I saw some... We've seen bad traits from Cuti Romero before in kind of teams that get absolutely battered, and him losing his head and him losing his cool and him not putting in maybe 100%. And I think I saw a bit of that creeping into his game yesterday. You definitely saw him at the start of the second half losing his head, putting in those stupid challenges again, and just seeing some bad traits from these players that we have seen in the past, but we thought maybe under Ange that had all gone. But
I guess it takes bit longer to fully get that out of us.
These are your vice captains, right? Sonny's off the pitch. Sonny got taken off. Mm-hmm. And you've got, I think Romero had the armband, or Maddison had the armband. I'm not sure which one had it. Maddison had it, but Romero's the vice captain at that point on the pitch, right? You need your leaders and you need your captains to step up. And I think Maddison was probably our best player on the pitch yesterday, and he was poor.
Yeah, I thought he was our best player for sure. And still didn't have his best game, but I thought he was the only one really, when he was getting on the ball, looking to be a bit creative, a bit inventive and try things. Yeah, and the leadership wasn't there. I mean, the whole team just completely went AWOL. It was really bizarre. As soon as we conceded that first goal, we just completely collapsed. And we've had a tendency in previous years to do that. And it's just a shame that we thought that was coming out this team, and then obviously Fulham. I would say Brighton away at really ugly head, and then didn't really happen again until Fulham, and now it's happened again against Newcastle. So it's very, very frustrating. Doesn't mean that's not something that can be sorted. It is, but I just hate watching that happen. And when you want to watch it happen, you just think about all the previous times where it's happened before.
And history tells us sometimes these things can spiral.
Mm-hmm.
And if it spirals now and we go take a thumping from Arsenal at Tottenham, I fear in the way that what this fan base is going to do and how this fan base is going to react. Because you're telling me that if we get battered to Newcastle, battered to Arsenal, we're not going to get battered at Liverpool as well? Like, if these string of results happen in the space of a couple of weeks,
we never won Chelsea.
Like, I fear what this fan base is going to react like. And me personally, I do think Ange is the right man for the job, and I do think that we can go on an upward trajectory with him, and I think we have shown signs of progress from last season, and I do think we'll show more signs of progress next season. But you can't get away from the fact that these away games at the moment, the Fulham game, the Newcastle game, the Brighton game, we've shown really bad traits in this football team, and I don't know how he sorts it out.
That's something on the agenda for him. Obviously, these are things that are problems, are always going to be things to iron out when you're very early in the job and in your first year. And this is something he's got to combat at the moment. Away from home, we don't seem to be the same team that we are at home, and we don't seem to have the same control in games that we do. But that's all part of the process. But if he can't sort it out, that's going to be a major issue. And the fact that it's gone on for a while now is a big problem. The fact that these set pieces has gone on for a while now is a big problem. The fact that we keep getting so easily hit in the transition and that's not being sorted is a problem. Doesn't mean we can't give them the time to try and sort out all these problems, but the issue is that we're seeing it so consistently there doesn't seem to be any progression on fixing these issues, and that is a big problem, and that is a big concern, and that is something that Ange will have to be accountable for. But I'm willing to give him the time to try and sort it out.
Yeah, so am I. We got no choice, really, do we? But what I want to say as well, all these fans singling out Timo Werner from yesterday. Like, yes, he missed a golden opportunity to put us 1-0 up in the early stages of that first half. And yes, if he did score that, it could have been a completely different game. But having said that, it is only one chance. It is only a couple of moments in the start of the game. And first of all, he gets in the right areas. And yes, he wasn't good enough, Timo Werner, yesterday. But why single out Timo when every single player on that football pitch wasn't good enough yesterday?
Because he was the one getting the positions for the chances, so he's the one that gets to blame because he got in the positions. Like, I didn't see Brennan Johnson getting in those positions, you know what I mean?
Brennan Johnson was the one laying it off for him.
I didn't see Son getting in those positions, but because, they go missing, they don't get the same focus that Timo Werner does. And that, yeah, look,
I think it's unfair.
He deserves his criticism because he missed those chances, but he doesn't deserve the focus of the criticism. A bit like what I said about Van der Ven. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve criticism for what happened. I'm just saying the focus shouldn't be on him. He's not the symptom.
Nobody should be probably having the focus of criticism yesterday, because it was a whole collective. From top to bottom, nobody was good enough yesterday. Yeah, maybe there was some worse than others, but I just don't think anyone put a better than a 3 out of 10 performance yesterday.
Yeah.
And if you go up to Newcastle and put that kind of performance level in, it's only going to end one way. Mm-hmm. Especially when they have top quality player Alexander Isak with the form he's on. He's one of the best strikers in the Premier League. Anthony Gordon, he's been brilliant this season. Harvey Barnes come back from injury and he's played well. If you give these players these kind of chances, they're going to eat you alive for fun, and that is exactly what happened yesterday.
Yeah, that front three is one of the best transitional front threes there is. And I think they played a very smart game. They just made sure that they weren't vulnerable at the back, and they knew that if they could get the ball to those players quickly, that we were going to be open, and we're going to have space to exploit. And that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. They played it to perfection, and it was a terrible day at the office for Spurs. I'm hoping to say it's one of those that we just put behind us and forget about and just move on from. But I want to say that about Fulham, and now it's happened again. So that's the biggest red flag.
Yeah. And the thing that hurts me as well, above the application level, is just what we've always prided ourselves on this season, which has stopped at Fulham, which has stopped at Newcastle, is our ability to create chances and our ability to score goals. I mean, before that Fulham game, we went 36 games or something with scoring goals in a row.
Yeah.
Now we've gone to Newcastle and we've gone to Fulham, and we've barely laid a glove on both of these teams and haven't scored a goal. And that as well has got to be alarm bells, because this is what this Ange team is all about, is being able to create those opportunities to score goals on a consistent basis. And now we're starting to see these games where we're creating literally, apart from those few chances in the first 20 minutes of the game, I don't think we created anything.
We didn't. We created 0.7 XG, and 0.6 of it was in the first 20 minutes.
That's it.
So that tells the story about how we were completely stifled. And that's also a massive concern, because you're playing against a depleted Newcastle side and we couldn't even create anything against them. That is really worrying. Like, Newcastle have been a shambles defensively the whole year. Like, they conceded 4 at home to Luton. They lost 3-1 at home to Forest. I know maybe they approach those games a bit differently, but still, they've been a shambles at the back the whole season. And also, they've just lost Botman as well, who was fit and available recently, and they've lost a few other players. Trippier's not playing at the moment. Livramento didn't even start. And they're playing this back line, and we couldn't create anything against it. That is something that Ange has got to be massively concerned about. And he's now going to be judged on these big games coming up. Because 60 points, he's going to have to find 10. Well, look, obviously, hopefully we'll get 6 points out of Burnley and Sheffield United, but he's going to have to find points out of Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, and City. He's going to have to find points out of those games if we're going to get top 4 now. It's now not a luxury to get points out of the games. It's now a bit of a necessity, and that's the position we're in.
I tell you the truth, though. I do tell you the truth. In my personal opinion, I know you probably feel differently to this, but I couldn't give a shit about top 4. I really couldn't. Like, I don't think that getting in the top 4 is look, obviously it's a sign of progression because we finished 8th last season, but so is finishing the Europa League is a sign of progression for next season. But this Spurs team going and playing in the Champions League next season, we're going to get eaten alive. Like, why not be in a competition, first of all, that we can win? I'm not saying I prefer Europa League over Champions League. I'm happy to be in either competition. Obviously, I'd slightly prefer to be in the Champions League, but I don't see it as this be-all and end-all and such a successful season because we finish in the top 4. How many times have we finished in the top 4 and we haven't kicked on the next season? I so resonate with these comments that Ange makes time and time again, saying, all I care about is seeing progression year on year. That's all I care about. And if you ask me right here, right now, what would I prefer? Would I prefer to finish in the top 4 or hold Arsenal's title charge and see Arsenal not win the league? 100% I'd see Arsenal not win the league. And for me, from now to the end of the season, all I want to see is Arsenal crumble. And yes, I want to see Spurs win as many games as we can from the end of the season. If we do that, we probably will finish in the top 4. But for me, I don't really care that much if we finish in the top 4 or not.
Look, it's not the be-all and end-all, but that's what I want. I want to see us in the Champions League. I think it helps. It does help the progression when you're facing the best, so you can test yourself against the best. I think that's the best measure of where you are as a team. So, and I think being in the Champions League is beneficial. Obviously, the money helps as well. So for me, I do want to get that Champions League spot. Considering we've been flirting with that top 4, being in that top 4 for a lot of the season, would be a bit of a disappointment for me if we were to miss out right at the end because of some poor form. I'm not saying it will be a disaster by any stretch, but it would be disappointing. And I think in years gone by, I remember when under Poch, when we got into the Champions League, that was. I mean, like, it was good for us. Like, going on those Champions League runs, it helped us develop as a team, I felt, when we were playing these kind of good teams. And I agree with Ange. I don't want a player coming just because we're in the Champions League. I agree with all of that. But that would be just a sign of progression that we're getting into the Champions League. That in itself would be a sign of progression. Not that it's an achievement in itself, but it's a sign that we are progressing and we're going to be a team facing those big teams. The players in the team want to face the best. They want to test themselves against the best. Those are the games they want to be involved in. They're watching those, as Madison said, he's watching those Champions League quarterfinals, brilliant games. He's thinking, these are the games I want to be involved in. Those are the games I want. So for me, if they want it, they need to go and grab it. And that, by going to grab it, they need to get points against Arsenal. They need to get points against Liverpool and City.
It doesn't have to be such a short-term thing, though. You've got to realise where you're at as a football club right now. And I don't think we're good enough to be in the Champions League.
Why not?
Why not?
Are Villa good enough to be, like, if we get in the top 4 or top 5, you're good enough to be in the Champions League?
Good enough to do what in the Champions League? Go
Who
out
knows?
in the last 16?
Who knows?
Group stages.
Who says we're going to be the same team next season as we are this season? You know what I mean?
So if we're not the same team as we are, if we keep progressing, then those Champions League nights and those runs will happen. They will come naturally. Of course they will. I want to be sitting here and being like, I want to go and win trophies. I want to go and be proud of going and see my team week in, week out, and winning consistent games and looking like a proper outfit week in, week out. We're not doing that. And when you're looking at this team,
we're doing it not a better standard than most teams in their first season under a new manager.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and that's why I say that I'm backing Ange. I'm behind Ange. I can see the progression under Ange, but to say like a lot of people use this Champions League thing as like a equivalent to a trophy. For me, it's not. And we've been here, we've sat here, we've talked about it so many times. We've made those Champions League, like since Harry Redknapp, we've made the Champions League how many times? What, 5, 6 times, something like that? Mm-hmm. And it's never kicked us on. It's never made us think about progression, and it's never made us go on that upward trajectory. If anything, we've rested on our laurels every time we've made Champions League and gone backwards.
Okay, but what's the point though?
The point of what?
Do we not want Champions League?
It's not that we don't want it, but it's not like some amazing achievement if we do get it.
I'm not saying it's an amazing achievement. I just want it.
Some fans think it is.
I agree, and they shouldn't see it as this be-all and end-all. Getting in the Champions League is like the holy grail. It's not. I want to be in those Champions League nights. I want to see hear that Champions League music at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium next season. Those are the nights I want. Those are the nights I look forward to. There's massive games against massive clubs. I look forward to those things. That's what football is all about, testing yourself against the best. That's what I want for my club. If we miss out, it's not the be-all and end-all. We'll be in the Europa League. It'll be a good opportunity to maybe win a trophy, and we can still progress. I completely agree, but doesn't mean I'm not going to be disappointed if we don't get into that Champions League, and I think we should aim to be getting to that Champions League. We're not winning the league. The next best thing is to get into the Champions League, and that's what we got to try and achieve this season. And I think to be in your first season at a new club where there's been a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties, if you end that season getting into Champions League football, I think you've done very well, because there's been a lot of challenges, and in your first season to do that is not many managers have done that in their very first season in charge of a club. So I think
Ten Hag did it. He got Champions League in his first season.
Yeah, and then they didn't kick on.
Exactly.
Okay, but that's them. That doesn't mean we should look at that and think, okay, so we don't want Champions League.
This is what happens at this football club. We make Champions League, and then it just goes, all right, we're good enough to get in the Champions League and just go again next season. Like, we need constant progression.
We got Champions League 5 years in a row, but it did kick us on, getting us in the Champions League.
We got Champions League 5 years in a row, but also it coincided with a lot of the big teams dropping off in that moment in time, and it also coincided. Oh, and Spurs have just scored.
Spurs have just scored looks like a late winner. Wow.
27th minute. Come on,
into the final of the FA Cup.
This is what I want to see.
Ladies.
This is what I want to see.
Mentality.
You know what I mean? This is what the men's team should be doing.
A long throw, I think it was a header from a long throw, and bam, brilliant header. What a goal.
Come on. Anyway, what was I saying?
Who knows?
Oh, God.
Look, I agree with your sentiment. Just because we get in the Champions League doesn't mean we've achieved anything and we shouldn't be resting on laurels. I completely agree with that, but it still doesn't negate the fact, for me, I want to be in the Champions League.
Look, I'm not saying I don't want to be in the Champions League. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that, I've said it so many times now, but a lot of people think like getting in the Champions League is such an achievement. But what I've been saying is that we've done it so many times, and the key thing for next season is just progression. And if we finish in the Europa League
look at Arsenal when we beat them to Champions League.
Exactly. Yeah. That proves my point even more.
No, I agree. I completely agree with that, but doesn't mean we shouldn't be disappointed. Like, they were disappointed they didn't get there. They didn't say, oh, it's fine, we're progressing.
And they kicked on, and we
exactly.
didn't. And we rested on our laurels,
Correct.
and we went backwards.
But they were disappointed. They wanted that to be in the Champions League, and so should we.
Yeah. But it's not the be-all and end-all for progression.
Bit of luck there. But,
it's not the be-all and end-all for progression, getting in Champions League. And if we get into the Europa League, qualify for the Europa League next season, I will not be mad at it at all. And I think it's a competition that we can realistically win next season.
Agreed.
And not only a competition that we can realistically win, but everyone talks about these youngsters, Jamie Donnelly, Bergvall, and all these kind of players coming through, Sunsot Bell. It's a competition as well that these players should be able to get minutes in as well.
Potentially, potentially. Europa League's getting a better standard though recently. So
group stages,
maybe group stages, they can get some minutes, but I think Europa League can't take it lightly either. It's a very, very difficult competition.
Yeah.
But yeah, It's very, very tough running. We'll see how it goes, I guess, in the last few games.
Yeah.
Doesn't get much harder. We're pretty much the hardest running.
No game for 2 weeks, but we've got Arsenal at home in 2 weeks' time. So it's hard to be a bit scared from that fixture, to be honest, after what we saw on that pitch yesterday. But that is your match review from the game yesterday. Let's get into the player ratings. Let's start off with Vicario. Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 3. Didn't get close to any of the goals yesterday. I thought his kicking out the back was fairly poor as well. I think one of them did lead to a goal or lead to a big chance as well, his kicking out the back. And I just thought it was... I mean, I wouldn't put it down to him because I think the chances were pretty from point-blank range, but I don't remember seeing him do anything good apart from maybe one save in that second half.
Yeah, what I would say about Vicario, I was pretty disappointed with him. I think... I don't think it was his fault, but you look at Isaac's finish for the first goal, it's not directly in the corner. I think there are probably times this season when he might have saved that. Obviously, the second goal for Gordon, he gets a big hand to it as well. And again, it's a close range finish. I'm not going to blame him, but he gets a big hand to it. He'll be disappointed maybe he didn't stop it. So I don't think it was his best game.
I think like he could have come out a bit earlier for that third goal as well.
And a bit, that's also a point. He hesitated bad. He did come out and then he went back. He hesitated. So didn't show decisiveness for that third goal, and obviously that led to them scoring. And I thought from corners he looked quite dodgy. I know he wasn't flapping, but he didn't come out or be commanding or anything like that. He didn't inspire a confidence in the back line.
Can't do it all on his own though, can he? Like
no,
his defender's got to protect him as well.
Of course not. And actually, looking at the stats, they only had 5 shots on target and scored 4 goals. So it tells me they didn't have a great game.
Pedro Porro up next. Him gives him a 3. I gave him a 2. Obviously, for the second goal, he just plays Newcastle through on goal, which was, I don't even know what he's doing at that moment. But apart from that, I felt like he was all over the place defensively for the first half. Went off early in the second half. Did get an injury. So it looks like we could potentially be going into the North London derby with Emerson Royale at right back. We haven't heard any word about the extent of the injury, have we?
Yeah, I think Ange said it was a little tweak. He said he felt something in the first half and allowed him to continue in the second half, and that's a real disappointment to hear that, because it means they risked aggravating his injury, and he's such an important player for us, Pedro Porro. So I don't think we can afford to have a long-term injury for him. But I thought Harvey Barnes was giving him a really tough time. Obviously, horrendous error for the second goal as well, completely playing it blind back into Anthony Gordon. I thought there was actually some good stuff from him at 2-0, like he was some really good build-up play, but we didn't make anything of it in the final third, so it came to nothing. And then defensively he really struggled on the day, so probably his worst performance of the season.
Cuti Romero up next. Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 2. I don't think he was, specifically at fault for any of the goals or any of, maybe he should have been doing more from the corner, but defence was all over the place from corners, and that point your centre-backs do need to step up, and Van de Ven and Romero, Doggy, were just nowhere to be seen from any of the defensive corners, so he's got to be marked down from that. And I just felt like that backline was lacking leadership massively throughout the whole game, and he's got to be providing that leadership to the back line. And I felt like his head dropped, and I felt like he let his standard slip, and in the second half he just started to be that old Romero where he just starts hacking down people and just gets clearly visibly frustrated, and I don't like to see those signs from Romero. Yeah,
and obviously I think he ended up getting booked, didn't he, in that second half with a really poor challenge. I thought he really was getting frustrated with Isaac. He really struggled to deal with him. I thought he was a bit more composed than Van de Ven. I thought on the day, I thought he was dealing with a few better situations a bit better than him, but unfortunately didn't mean much at the end of the day. And Romero was really, really poor. I was really disappointed with him. It was just one of those days he lost his head a bit. And I thought, sorry, for the first goal, I would say as well, he made a big mistake going towards Gordon, leaving Isaac completely free. He should have stuck with Isaac and allowed Van de Ven to deal with Gordon, and that kind of caused a lot of confusion as well.
Next up is Mickey Van de Ven. Sim gives him a 3. I gave him a 2. I mean, had his hand in 3 of the goals we conceded, and was nowhere to be seen for the defensive set pieces as well. And with his height and with his strength, he should be better in the air than he is. He's got to be. And I don't know why. the defence was just all at sea for every single defensive set piece that we've had in recent weeks, and he's got to be a central figure to that. First goal and second goal, he gets played massively in trouble, but he slips at the wrong time, and obviously he's the last line of the defence, and every other game he sweeps up and he does it into such a great level, but in this game, the quality of the attack just outdid him on the day, and he ends up slipping on the third goal. Again, he's the last line of defence, and he just couldn't keep up with Alexander Isak, and unfortunately it was his worst display in a Spurs shirt.
Yeah, what I would say is the first and second goal isn't a sweeping issue. It's an issue of him trying to make up for other people's mistakes, and that's very different to what the kind of defending he's been doing for a lot of the season, which is mopping up balls over the top when he has the pace to recover. So I felt for him a bit in those moments, albeit him slipping is obviously not a good look, and he probably could have stayed on his feet and done a bit better in those situations. When you're making up for terrible errors from the back, that's going to be always difficult. The third goal was what I give him the most criticism for. I thought his positioning was really, really poor on the day for that goal. Could have been a bit deeper, made sure that Isaac, he was going to get to the ball before Isaac did. I thought he was, obviously Isaac ran from his own half, keeping himself onside, and I thought Van der Ven didn't deal with that situation very, very well at all. And all that put together probably was his first probably bad game, you could probably say, in a Spurs shirt for Mickey Van der Ven. But I do think a lot of the criticism for the first two goals is a bit over the top, in my opinion.
Next up, Destiny Udogie. Sim gives him a 3. I gave him a 2. Obviously, the first goal he was nowhere near at the levels for. I'm not sure who was it again. Was it Gordon?
Gordon.
Just completely did him, and he was not. And with the strength that he does have, he needs to be standing up to him a lot more and a lot better than he did. I thought Anthony Gordon as well, just on a general note, just gave him such a torrid time throughout the whole game. I did feel like he improved in that aspect a little bit. But still nowhere near good enough on the day.
Yeah, I was very frustrated because in that for that first goal, he actually does the hard bit. He gets in front of Gordon and wins the ball, and then he just makes a horrendous error. Like his touch should have been much more in front of him instead of to the side, and he allows Gordon to bully him off the ball. Like how is he allowing that when he should be having the physical advantage there? Puts us under pressure, and obviously we go 1-0 down. I don't think he recovered too much from that. I thought on that right-hand side, Gordon was causing all sorts of trouble. I don't think Destiny Udogie had that side sorted whatsoever, and I thought going forward as well, didn't really cause too much of a threat for Newcastle. So and then end of the day, it was a poor display from Destiny.
Next up is Yves Bissouma. Sim gives him a 3. I gave him a 2. Another shocking display from Bissouma. And for me, he needs to come out of the team for that North London derby. We can't have a player showing those kind of levels and application in a game of that magnitude. I mean, he was nowhere to be seen. He was on the pitch for about an hour, and I don't think I remember seeing him once. I mean, the guy was hiding. He must have been hiding because I didn't see him. Nowhere near the required levels.
Yeah, I thought it was shocking. There were a few times the ball was played to him and his touch was just completely off, and he was just all over the place. I thought in the first 16 minutes, 20 minutes, he was okay, but as soon as Newcastle took the advantage, he went completely hiding, and I thought his display really suffered for it, and he was rightly hauled off. The one thing I would say about him starting the next game was I thought Højbjerg came on was probably just as bad or worse than him, so I don't know what we do going forward, but terrible game for Bissouma.
Rodrigo Bentancur. Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 3. I was actually quite impressed with him in the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I thought he was winning his duels. I thought he was trying to spur us forward as well. But I don't know. I mean, he did drop off when the team dropped off when we went 2-0 down. But there were some, I guess, slightly positive signs from Bentancur.
It was a weird one from Bentancur. I thought off the ball, he was poor, and there were some moments where he got absolutely burnt from Gordon, struggling to keep up with him and just seemed a bit off the pace. But on the ball, he actually looked quite good. He was using that press resistance ability to dribble and nutmeg a few players and get away from a few tight situations. It looked like he was actually going to have a good game. But unfortunately, off the ball is where we really suffered from Bentancur, and he wasn't able to keep up with Newcastle's transitions, and that was a big problem for us. So on the ball, again, signs of him getting back to his best, but off the ball, he's still not quite there yet.
James Maddison up next. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. Probably Spurs' best player on the day. He tried to show a few signs of leadership, tried to get on the ball and slide players through. I mean, in the first 20 minutes, I think he was central to the chances that we were creating. He was trying to be that hub of the team, but he was trying to do it on his own at times.
Yeah, I thought he was definitely our best player. He was the only one getting on the ball, looking to pass the ball forward, play riskier passes, play little 1-2s, trying to keep the ball in better positions as well. Also set up, I think he set up the chance for Werner, I think he did, which Werner hit his shot net went near the corner flag, but I thought he was doing some good stuff. I thought in the first half as well, he probably had only shot on target, which was an effort from 25 yards, but it wasn't a great effort anyway. It wasn't his best display, but I thought for Spurs, he was the only player trying to take the game to Newcastle and trying to make something happen. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough.
Yeah, I think another one was Brennan Johnson, who we'll move on to next. Falls all round. He was putting some good deliveries into the box in the first opening 20 minutes. He was the one getting down that right-hand side and beating his man and putting balls into the box. But apart from those first 20 minutes, I don't think we saw him again.
Yeah, he pardon the pun for that in the opening exchanges. It looked like, maybe it's going to be a really tough day for Damper. Maybe Johnson could really get the run of him. But unfortunately, it was literally the only time he did it the whole game. And he did set up a chance for Werner. It was a difficult chance. It wasn't an easy ball to deal with from Timo, so I do have some sympathy for him on that one. But yeah, apart from that, he had a few runs at the Newcastle defence, but he was restricted of the space he likes, and unfortunately wasn't able to be effective.
Timo Werner up next. Him gives him a 3. I gave him a 2. Obviously, everyone goes back to the chances that he did miss. I mean, finishing was absolutely horrific from Timo Werner, but at least he was getting in the positions where we could have a sight on goal because no one else was. And again, after those first few chances that we had in the first opening 15-20 minutes, he was nowhere to be seen after that.
Yeah, he'll get a lot of the criticism because all the chances we did have fell to him, and his shooting boots were most definitely off on that occasion. Obviously, one set up by Brennan, which he blazed over the bar. One which Son actually played a really nice outside of the boot pass to him, and he cut inside, and his shot hit Sonny on the return. And then another one set up by Maddison, which he completely skewed wide. So had 3 presentable opportunities. If one of them goes in, maybe it's a different game. Maybe Newcastle have to change the way they play. So we'll never know. But other than that, after those 3 missed chances, never really threatened.
Yeah. And last but not least of the starting 11 is Heung-min Son. Sim gives him a 3. I gave him a 2. I did think it was probably, if not the worst, one of his really bad displays of the season. He just couldn't impact the game whatsoever, and it culminated in Ange having to haul him off after an hour. I think it was a bit harsh on him because there were a lot of other players on the same level as him in terms of performance, but he just couldn't seem to apart from that one ball that you're talking about, the outside of the foot one. I can't remember one kind of good moment where he can impact the game. And
on top of that, I actually think he was hurting us badly because I believe 2 of their goals came from him giving the ball away. I think the first goal, he gives the ball away, where it's actually a chance for Tottenham to create something. He gives the ball on the edge of the box and bam, one transition, they're in and they score. And the third goal as well, he has the ball on the edge of their box, poor touch from him, gives the ball away, and all of a sudden it's 3-0 and one long ball over the top and bam. So not only was he not creating, but he was actually actively hurting us, unfortunately. It's hard for me to say that because I love him so much, but that is the truth. And it was a really bad day for him. And he kept trying to come deep to collect the ball and get involved in the game. But I felt like whenever he came deep to get the ball, he kept being fouled and they weren't allowing him to get involved. And yeah, apart from that one pass to the outside of the boot, couldn't really do much. Don't think he had a shot at all on the day.
Pape Matar Sarr, who came on with around half an hour to go. 5s all round for Pape. And I thought Pape was all right. You know, he came on, added a bit more energy into the midfield and kind of stemmed the tide of Newcastle just creating chance after chance against us. Albeit, they only had 5 shots on goal throughout the game and they scored 4 of them. But I do think that kind of stopped when Sarr came on the pitch.
Yeah, I thought he was all right. I don't think he added. I think at that time, we're keeping the ball a lot and we're looking to try and break Newcastle down. He didn't really add too much in that avenue. Defensively, he was okay, but obviously doesn't take much to be better defensively than what preceded him. But don't think he added too much, to be honest.
Yeah, and the same has to be said for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg as well. Sim gives him a 3. I gave him a 4. After a couple of good displays over the last couple of weeks, this one was probably a step in the wrong direction.
I thought he was shocking when he came on. I thought he kept passing out of play every single time. There was one pass right at the end, I think it was like in the 90th minute, where he's like 30 yards from goal, and he passes it like it's a shot, and it just goes like right into the crowd. But as a pass, it's like, maybe the kit is the problem. I was thinking at that moment, was like, is he trying to find a guy in the crowd thinking he's one of our teammates? I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. I thought his passing was a shambles. I thought it was a horrific cameo from Højbjerg, and he obviously came on last week and did a great job, but I thought he was shocking when he came on in this one.
Yeah, it's a culmination of the kit, 12:30 kickoffs, and being away from home.
And Newcastle.
It's just like, what is it about Spurs and 12:30 kickoffs?
Yeah, we can't handle them.
We're
not very good at them.
And last but not least, Decky. Sim gives him a 5, I gave him a 4. I mean, added a bit of energy, but I don't think he added much.
I actually thought it was a good cameo from him, to be honest.
What did he do?
Yeah, I actually thought he was quite creative. I actually thought he took people on a couple of times. I thought he was quite strong. And I actually thought he was trying to get some shots off as well. And he was trying to make things happen. I was actually quite... He was trying. When everyone gave up, I thought Kulusevski was actually trying to do something. So I thought it was actually a nice cameo from him. But unfortunately, we were 3-0 down and wasn't much to do then.
Yeah, I said last but not least, but now it really is last but not least, is Giovanni Lo Celso. Sim gives him a 5, I gave him a 4. I mean, visibly rattled, wasn't he, at the end of that game with that little spat with Bruno Guimaraes after Guimaraes was trolling him, holding up the 4, saying we've beaten you 4-0. Little bit of Brazilian and Argentine rivalry stemming into this game. But yeah, I mean, Gio didn't really offer much either.
Yeah, he only had 10 minutes, tried to add a bit of energy, was getting on the ball a bit, but unfortunately wasn't really enough time to impact the game.
Ange Postecoglou, 3s all round for big Ange, and worrying signs, particularly away from home. We can't seem to play anywhere close to the level of performance that we play at home. To lose 4-0 and not really hurt Newcastle as much as we did as when making the changes, nothing seemed to work. Set pieces are a major concern, where they had about, I don't know how many they had yesterday, but they could have scored on probably 85% of them. We just seem to be clueless when we're defending set pieces, and he hasn't seemed to improve that throughout the whole season, and this one was probably the worst of the lot. Like, how many times did they just have 3 men in the box? Like, none of our defenders are tracking anyone. No one's looks like they can be asked to defend set pieces, and he's got to take a massive bear of the brunt on that, because he's the one that keeps saying that we don't need a specialized set piece coach or anything like that, and we've been saying it for weeks now. Like, we need one desperately, because if we don't, we're just going to keep conceding goals like that. And we're so lucky that they only scored a set piece from till the end of the game, like in the last 10 minutes of the game. So it's nowhere near good enough from Ange Postecoglou. I think you must have seen the worrying signs when 2-0 down at half-time, and nothing that he said or did at half-time made any impact on the game.
Yeah, and he's been quite good with his proactive substitutions lately, making subs at half-time when he feels like things aren't working or need a change. But unfortunately, this one, 2-0 down, he didn't make any changes, and he had to wait till it was 3-0 before he made the changes. And then about 3-0, the game was well and truly over at that point. So maybe he could have made some change at half-time. But the really big concern, as you're saying, is the things that we're not very good at. There doesn't seem to see much progress at the moment in trying to fix those issues. How bad we're looking in transitions, there doesn't seem to be much progress there. The set piece issue doesn't look to be much progress there. Scoring goals without basically getting it to the winger and cutting it back and getting a tap in. Finding other avenues to attack opposition. Doesn't seem to be much progress there as well. So definitely food for thought for Ange Postecoglou, and a lot of things to be concerned about. A few red flags appearing. A lot of things to work on. Not to say they can't be sorted, and not to say we have to throw out all the good work just because these are still problems, but the fact that they've been consistent problems for a while now, and there's no real evidence at the moment that we're sorting those problems, has to be a big concern.
Absolutely. So that is our player ratings for the post-mortem, which was Newcastle 4-0 yesterday. A super chat here from Elias saying, up the Spurs ladies into the FA Cup final. At least there's something to cheer about today, because Spurs did score a last minute winner in extra time at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and Spurs are in to the FA Cup final at Wembley against one of Manchester United or Chelsea. So
yeah, when is that? Maybe we can get tickets for it.
Yeah, we'll have to find out.
How does that work? Does that
Man United are 1-0 up, by the way, in the other semi-final.
So does that go on loyalty points, like normal loyalty points?
I don't know.
Be interesting. I don't know.
We've never made it before, so
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
There's no previous.
Yeah, I do wonder how that's going to go, but it'd be nice if it's if the date works out. We go cup final at Wembley. That would be a nice day out.
I'm just trying to find out when it is. Women's FA Cup final.
On 12th of May, someone said. Well,
12th of May, yeah.
So what day are we playing on the 12th of May?
No, it's the day after the Burnley game.
Oh, so it's second last game of the season. Okay. So let's go.
Third last game. Well,
yeah, thirdly, yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe we'll try and get tickets for that.
Yeah, I would love to go to that.
12th of May, for sure.
At least it will be the only chance we have to see Spurs win a trophy for a while. So
yeah, I do wonder if they see it, the men's and the women's, as like a different thing in terms of like loyalty points and stuff. I don't know. Yeah.
I think I don't know. I don't think you're going to need loyalty points for it, to be honest.
What you think would be easy to get?
It depends. It depends how many tickets they give I don't know. Is the whole of Wembley going to? I don't know. I don't know.
I guess we'll see, guys.
Have to wait and see. But let's move on to the 5 takeaways and see what 5 things we can take away from the game yesterday. Number 1 is away concerns.
Yeah, and look, the away form is what we've been talking about in our match review, and just breaking down the numbers. 2 away wins since October. Spurs actually, the 2 away wins have come 2-0 away win against Forest and a 4-0 away win against Villa. We actually do sit 5th in the overall away points in the Premier League, but 55% of our away total, 13 of our 24 points, came in the first 10 games of the season. So we've only had 9 points since game week 10. Now we're in game week 31. So the past 20 game weeks, only 9 of our points away from home have come in that period. So definitely something we are struggling with away from home. And it's maybe it's just, I don't know what it's a case of, but at the moment we can't seem to assert ourselves away from home in the same way we do at home.
Yeah, and it's really frustrating. It's really concerning. It's something that I've been worried about for quite some time. And it's not just like Spurs not being able to play their football, but in a few games we've just been totally embarrassed, against teams that shouldn't be happening against. Yeah, Newcastle, it shouldn't be happening against that Newcastle team, a completely depleted Newcastle team. I think the majority of Spurs fans, when they looked at the 2 lineups, thinking, all right, this Newcastle team, we can get at them today. Jacob Murphy at fullback and a midfield which is nowhere near close to their strongest midfield, and Spurs had their strongest team on. But it's not just that. Brighton away, we got completely embarrassed. I think we were 4-0 down at some stage in that game when we did a late rally and scored 2 goals. And that Fulham game just a few weeks ago, completely embarrassed in that game as well. So it is a kind of theme that's happening with Spurs now. And Ange needs to sort it out, because I don't know what's happened from the first 10 games of the season to now. I know we've had loads of injuries and not enough consistency in terms of the players that we've been able to put on the pitch. But when you have your first choice out like that, you can't be getting embarrassed like the way we are. We're so easy to carve open chances. 1 ball down the middle of the park and that's it. They're through on goal. And that should never be the case. Defending set pieces as well, which was spoken about many a time, I'm sure we'll get into in a minute. But there are just so many worrying signs at the moment with Spurs, particularly away from home, that we need to sort out as soon as possible. As soon as possible.
Yeah, away form is big concern.
Next up, we are going to look at being exposed in the transition.
Yeah, and yesterday Newcastle it's crazy how little they had the ball and how much they were able to hurt us. They only completed 123 passes on the day, which is like, we complete that usually in like one half of football, let alone a whole game of football. And they had 27% possession, but despite all the how little they had of the ball, they created 2.88 xG. They had 5 big chances on the day. Anthony Gordon actually on the ball created 8 chances. He had 8 key passes on the day, so he completely destroyed us on the transition. And you look at that first goal and the third goal, it's literally, we lose the ball and it's 1 long pass from Bruno Guimaraes and they're in and on goal. And we got completely destroyed in the transition yesterday, and it's something that's been a bit of an issue. That what I would say is especially games at home when we play teams who don't have the forward line that Newcastle have, we've been able to cope with it, maybe restrict teams to 1 or 2 transitions per game. But when we played the quality we did yesterday, we got hit just countless amount of times, and it was a massive issue.
Yeah, it really was. And I mean, like I've said all stream, the defensive shape, the defensive personnel, nowhere near good enough. You can't just have one ball over the top to just cut us open every single time. And fine, if it happens once, you can say, all right, it's just once. But it's happening time and time again. And if the defenders can't work it out, the manager's got to work it out and figure ways how to combat the issue. But no one seemed to figure out any sort of reason or rhyme of how to combat these kind of balls over the top. And look, you got to say, Anthony Gordon put in an unbelievable performance yesterday. He really did. Bruno Guimaraes as well, who I thought was brilliant on the day. Both of them just completely dominated us. But we had no answers whatsoever to these kind of moments, how to combat these issues. And that's what's most concerning for me.
Yeah, and it's not something that's new. Like, obviously, we've seen that we've struggled in transition a lot this season. It's not something that's completely new to us. And we're not doing anything to rectify it. So that is, maybe it's something that we'll just have to assess at the end of the season. We're going to keep playing the same way from now to the end, and we'll have to assess it at the end. Maybe that's how Andrew's looking at it. But at the moment, it just seems that we're just doing the same thing every week. And teams are, especially good teams with good forward players at Newcastle, are exploiting it.
Let's go on to number 3, and that is Spurs stifled.
Yeah, and I think this as well is another big reason why we're so poor at the back, is because going forward, especially when we're playing against a low block like Newcastle, who are basically their aim of the game was to stifle Tottenham and hit us very quickly, we couldn't create anything. We could not create any sort of opportunities, especially after the first 20 minutes. And Timo Werner obviously had our 3 opportunities, but we had 0.77 XG on the day. 0.61 of it created in the first 16 minutes of the game. And I think that tells a story about how we had a flurry of chances early on, and then we were completely stifled by a very depleted Newcastle team, and it ended up being our worst XG performance of the season, which goes to show how little we did create. And looking at that lineup and looking at Newcastle's how they've defended all season, you would have thought you'd be licking your lips a bit, probably thinking we can really go at this team and create chances, and it was a complete opposite. Not only could we not go at them, we created less than we ever have, and I can't really put your finger on why that was the case.
Yeah, I think it was because standards and levels completely dropped off, and heads completely dropped after those first 2 goals, because we were creating chances before those first 2 goals, and after those 2 goals, we didn't create anything, absolutely nothing. So it was that kind of thing that we've seen with Spurs over the past 3, 4, 5 seasons, where something goes wrong in a game, heads completely drop, and we can't seem to recover from those situations. That's exactly what we saw yesterday on that St James's Park pitch. And I was listening to the build-up in the game yesterday with Peter Crouch and Rio Ferdinand and people like that. They were talking in the build-up to the game, saying this is going to be such a great game of football. There's going to be so many goals at either end. And then after the game, they were saying, well, we got one of it right, saying it's going to be a great game of football with loads of goals. But what we didn't get right is how poor Spurs were going to be on the day. And it's just so disheartening to think like we're near the end of the first year of Ange Postecoglou, and these kind of issues are just still there, where things go wrong in a game and we just can't recover from it. We just let the standards completely slip, completely, like from number 1 all the way to number 11 on that football pitch yesterday. Not one of them were good enough to play a game of Premier League football at that level.
Yeah, it was absolute shambles.
Let's move on to number 4, and that is more set-piece woes.
And no surprise here. Obviously, we conceded from 1 corner yesterday, and it could have been a lot more than that. I think we conceded 16 corners on the day. And I think that was also definitely a tactic for Newcastle. If they couldn't create a chance, just to win a corner, and you'll probably create a chance from it. And that, because as we said, Vicario actually didn't have too many saves. It wasn't about creating chances for them. It was about creating opportunities from corners, and that happened so often. They tried to get as many corners as possible. We obliged willingly, and we gave them 16. I think they had 10 opportunities from corners yesterday. I counted, and then obviously they got the goal near the end as well with with the header from Fabian Schär. It was a goal that was literally coming throughout the whole game, considering how many chances we conceded from corners. And that's now 6 games of the last 11. 6 of the last 11, we've conceded goals from corners now. And you can't even say it cost us yesterday because it was the 4th goal 3, but it's clearly something that every game we are struggling with, and every single time we get a corner, it's like we're giving teams 3 chances at the moment. It's like it's something that we've pointed out for so long, and yet Spurs have no answer for defending corners at the moment.
Yeah.
And Ange has to take responsibility for that because he doesn't have a set-piece coach.
Massive responsibility. You know, we had Gianni Vio not long ago, and when he came in, you saw a clear uptick in the way we were handling our set pieces, and he's gone. It seems like it's worse than ever. It really is. And we brought up a panel show saying Spurs need a set-piece coach, and we desperately need that set-piece coach now. And if he doesn't bring one in for next season, then I really fear for us next season as well in terms of these kind of aspects. But it was just embarrassing. It really was embarrassing. Every single corner, not one Spurs player picking up any Newcastle. It was like you get a free roam in our box in any sort of set-piece. It's worse than schoolboy stuff. Like, you're taught in schoolboy playing football when you're, even in school, never mind academies and stuff like that. When you're in school, to pick up a man. Like, why can't they pick up a man? It's ridiculous.
They can't get the first head on any of them. And the goal they scored, when Schär heads it, he's just so free. Like, there's no one around him. I think Decky was actually the one picking him up, and he chased him back. But he doesn't challenge him. He doesn't jump. He just runs at him, and that's it. And Schär just has a free header, and it was so simple.
Yeah. And last but not least, out the top 4.
Yeah, and that defeat meant that even though Villa didn't play, they went above us yesterday because of how bad the defeat was. We had the goal difference advantage going into this. The 4-0 defeat means that Villa now have a goal difference advantage. And actually, if you look at the fixtures now, obviously Villa play Arsenal today. We'll see how they get on in that game if they end up losing. If they do lose, obviously we'll go back into the top 4. If they get any result, then we will be ending the weekend in 5th. And it's getting quite, in terms of getting that last Champions League spot, it now is getting a lot trickier because the games we got left were Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Chelsea away as well. Very difficult avenues to get points. And then also, if you're looking for that 5th place to be Champions League, obviously, that's looking a bit trickier as well, with Bayern doing well, Leverkusen beating West Ham, Liverpool looking like they're heading out of Europe as well. So it is getting a bit. It's all after, like, last week or 2 weeks ago, it looked like Champions League was looking pretty assured. Now it's very much up in the air at the moment.
You cast your mind back to when we beat Aston Villa 4-0. It seems a world away now when we beat Aston Villa 4-0. And after that game, everyone was like, yes, and top 4 is nailed on. It's not even an issue. And now you're looking at it being like, yeah,
it's difficult.
It's very difficult, and
not impossible, but difficult.
Of course, it's not impossible because you're looking at Aston Villa and the way they're playing at the moment. It's not exactly they're playing amazingly. They're dropping points. They seem to be dropping points every week as well. But when you're looking at the 2 fixtures and the 2 teams, one has a clear harder run than the other team. And look, I've said it that I'm not too bothered if we make it or not. Obviously, it'll be nice to play Champions League football and hear that music again in the stadium. But I'm just looking at pure progression for next season in terms of getting better players in to suit the system. Just increasing the kind of, if we have a sort of injury problems next season, we don't drop the quality too much like we saw this season. It was like essentially don't have Emerson and Davies at the 2 centre-backs if Van der Ven and Romero get injured. So I want to see clear signs of progression next season. If that comes with or without Champions League, I'm not too bothered. And the 5th spot, like you said, that's very much up in the air. Like a week ago, it seemed like 85% that the England were going to get that spot. And now with all these teams, Liverpool losing 3-0 to Atalanta at home, West Ham losing 2-0 to Leverkusen, Arsenal and Bayern Munich, I mean, it's very up in the air. But if Aston Villa and Man City go on and win the 2 tournaments, surely England will get it.
It's still 50-50. Obviously, Leverkusen could win the Europa League, so obviously that plays a part. Depends how far Bayern go. Even if Arsenal go out, West Ham go out, Liverpool go out, it's still close. It's still not certain who's going to get it. But as you say, it's been a big swing the other way. It was a good chance that England were going to get it. Now it's still about, I think Opta had it as 57% England are going to get it. So it's still favourites to get it, but it was like over 70% a
Well,
week
let's
ago.
see what it's like after the second legs this week.
I wonder, in terms of like, if let's say if we presume Villa lose tonight, like obviously we got Burnley and Sheffield United still to play. Let's say we get 6 points. Would that be enough? Well, because I'm looking at Villa's fixtures. They got still in Europe if they beat Lille. That is, they got Bournemouth at home, Chelsea at home, Brighton away, Liverpool at home, and Palace away. Would 6 points be enough to finish above them? Do you reckon?
It'd be very tight.
It would be very tight, but I don't see them winning too many of those games.
So what you're saying, Bournemouth at home.
Yeah, no guarantee. Like, they're in good form. Chelsea at home, they lost them in the FA Cup. Brighton away is a very tough game.
Points to Liverpool and Brighton.
Then,
but you never know. The way things are going with Liverpool at the moment, they could be out the title race by then.
They are losing at the moment. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know. 6 points, I wouldn't completely rule out top four just with 6 points.
I wouldn't say it's guaranteed either.
No, it's not. No, it's definitely not guaranteed. I'm just saying, like, in my mind, even if we lose those 3 games to Liverpool, City, and Arsenal, is it like, does that mean it's no chance we get top four? I'm just looking at it, thinking, well, even if we lose those 3, no guarantee.
6 points from now until the end of the season, and
but it would be and we
get top four.
Yeah,
I mean, you've got to have the eternal optimist hat on to say that.
Yeah, you do. I'm just looking at the fixtures saying it's not completely impossible. We only get 6 points because I'm not definitely like, if you look at Tottenham's fixtures, Burnley, Sheffield United, that's 6 points there. I'm looking at their fixtures. I'm not definitely seeing 6 points there. Not 100%.
9 points, I would say.
9. What for who?
Spurs.
And Arsenal, when we beat Arsenal as well.
Well, you've got to hope that we go to Stamford Bridge and get the 3 points.
We never win there. We never bloody win there. That's the thing. And we saw with Newcastle, we never win there as well. So, anyway.
All right, well, that is our 5 takeaways from the game yesterday. 4-0 defeat at Newcastle. Let's move on and see how the internet did react to the game yesterday. There was a tweet from the Lane and back saying some deluded fans calling for Ange out. Seriously? Show some respect for what Ange has done so far in his first season. There was a quote retweet from KTHFC that says, out of both cups early, no Europe, refused to sit back versus Chelsea, costing us a likely draw, handled our injury crisis period worse than many managers would have. Look at how, has no plan B, can't coach a defence, refuses to sit back when needed. He's all talk and nothing else. And I think that's extremely harsh. Well,
he says, look at how, we're above
season.
Newcastle. What's he on about?
Yeah, we are above Newcastle and quite considerably above Newcastle. Out both cups early. I think you can say that for the Fulham one, right at the beginning of the season, in his like 3rd game in charge or something. You can definitely throw that criticism on him. But like, we went out for Man City in the other, like, the best team in the country and the best team in Europe. Like, anyone can lose to Man City on their day.
Yeah, I don't need
people caveat it, say, oh yeah, but we always give Man City a game. Like, yeah, and that's credit to the teams at that moment in time. That's not a given that we go and beat Man City.
100%. I think, yeah, that's probably the fairest criticism for him is how we've performed in the Cups, because that has been a big frustration. Even in that,
I would say the Carabao Cup. You can lose to Man City on any given day.
What I would say about that City performance is, like, I don't think we had a shot like all game, did we? Like, that was very frustrating. But I agreed, like, we lost to City. You can't really blame him for losing to City. But I think the fact we went out of both cups really early, considering we had no Europe, was a big disappointment, to be honest. And you expected at least, give the cups a good go, and we weren't able to do that. So I guess that's a bit of criticism. But in terms of the other stuff, I mean, handling our injury crisis worse than I would say he handled the injury crisis better than most managers would have, to be honest, because we kept playing our football. We still kept competitive in the top 4 race. We didn't completely drop out of it. Look at United, Newcastle, and a lot of other teams who had ambitions of being in the top 4, and they completely fell off and lost their pace with the top 4 because of injuries and stuff like that. So I would say he actually did better than a lot of other managers with it. Can't coach a defence. Look, yes, we're open at the back. The facts are, I think we have the 5th best defence in the league. You could argue,
is that right?
Yeah, we do. I think it's on 49 goals. I think only the top 3, Everton, just the top 3 in Everton have a better defence than us. We're level with Villa. So, yes, we concede a lot, but clearly, whether you can say it's a Premier League where a lot of goals are being conceded or whatever, we have the 5th best defence. It's not exactly, we're not like 10th.
Apart from Arsenal this season, like, it's very hard for clean sheets to come by, isn't it?
Yeah.
Arsenal are the only team that are really doing it.
It's not like we're sitting here in the bottom half of defence. We're 5th. So to say he can't coach defence, yes, we can definitely defend better. We got a long way to go to get to that top 3. I agree with that. But to say he can't coach defence is very harsh. Refuses to sit back when needed.
I think he's talking about the Chelsea game as well, like when we lost 4-1. And like the team got a standing ovation at the end of that game, losing 4-1, a few goals scored in the last minute of the game. I mean, we had 9 men and it was crazy. We had everyone playing on the halfway line, and we nearly scored. We nearly got that game when Eric Dyer scored. He was fraction offside.
And it wasn't even about the result. It's about what that game gave the team and gave the fans as well. Decky spoke about it, didn't he, in his Players Tribune, how much that game specifically meant to everyone because we got battered 4-1, yet we stuck to our principles. We nearly got a result, and it showed real belief in what Andrew's trying to do, and it really helped the fans really see what he's trying to do, and it gave that players belief that the fans will stick by them as long as they stick to that way of playing. So I think that like the overall positivity we got from that outweighed probably the negative result we got on the day.
Yeah, you say that, but I mean that game ruined our season. We went on after that game and lost 4 games.
That had nothing to do with us not playing high line.
And
that was to do with injuries and suspensions.
It is to do with injuries and suspensions, and that goes back to what he says about being able to handle the injuries and suspension. But I mean, like, if these 5 games don't happen, like this stretch of games after the Chelsea game, literally collapsed our season. If it wasn't for that, we would probably be safely in the top 4 now.
Correct, but look, things happen. What can you can't legislate for everything, and we've had these problems, but you can't say he hasn't handled the injury crisis because we're not safely in top 4 or challenging for a title, because you look at other teams who had similar ambitions and have injuries as well, and yet we're well clear of them. So I think he's handled it fairly well.
Art But Make It Sport says the assassination of St. Peter by Domenico, 1618.
Another classic. Oh, God.
So another art reimagined into the Spurs yesterday.
Van der Ven has been done in this one, unfortunately. Poor guy. But so creative, these guys, how they find these bloody pictures. But anyway.
You art enthusiast, you. Kieran says enough is enough. Torp Hayes out.
100%. I cannot
get
agree.
This kit in the bin.
Oh
seriously.
my God! I said
Why
it.
did we even use it yesterday?
I said it at the beginning of the season. This kit blends in with the crowd, and every time we bloody use it, we get battered and we play awful. I'm
How
telling
many games
you.
have we used it this season?
Fulham in the cup.
Yeah, embarrassing performance.
Luton away.
Just about got over the line against Luton. And that was a Luton side that were getting battered week in, week out.
Yeah, at the time. City away, we got a draw, to be fair. Brighton away, one of our worst performances of the season. And yesterday, I don't think we played it since Brighton.
THFC Matthew says, one bad day at the office and you get the kind of hate Mickey van der Ven has been one of the most consistent and best players this season, and that won't change because of one game. We will come back stronger. And I agree with that. Mickey van der Ven has been absolutely sensational this season, and one bad game should not change anyone's opinion on him.
I completely agree. But all I would say is like people are acting like he's the one playing the bad back passes, if you know what I mean. He's not. It wasn't all down to him that those goals happened. But of course, he had a bad game, no getting away from it. He's had much better games this season, and he'll just have to chalk it down to one of those days for him.
Chris Miller, Windy Coys says, it's year 1. We lost our greatest ever player in the summer, and he's currently got us 2-3 places above what everyone predicted, despite a period where we had no centre-backs and then lost 3 critical players for a month. No international duty, 2 international duty. Diabolical today, but no need to lose your minds. And I kind of do agree with that to a certain extent. I mean, it's hard not to lose your mind when it's just like exactly the same to what we saw last season, pretty much a year to the day when we got embarrassed at St James's Park last time. But I do agree with a lot of the statements that he has said. I mean, nobody thought we'd be in a top 4 race this season. Losing Harry Kane, more or less a completely new 11, try blend them in, a new way of playing football as well, getting back on the front foot. So I think Ange has done a lot of good things this season, so it shouldn't be just thrown out the window because of a few bad moments and some worrying signs. No,
I completely agree. The only caveat I would say to that is when we've had our fully fit team now for the last few weeks, especially in these games away from home against Fulham and Newcastle, the fact that we've looked as bad as we have has to be a concern. I don't think you can get away from that. But I think his overall point is 100% true. I think the overall picture is looking good at the moment. I think obviously we're progressing well. We're in a good position in the table. So I think those things are all true. There's no need to lose our heads. But I don't think we can just gloss over the fact that we've got a full team at the moment and we got battered by a really depleted Newcastle team. I don't think you can just overlook that.
Yeah, I agree. But you've got to look at like Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal. The year before they went on title challenges, I'm sure they had a number of embarrassing performances and worrying signs and all these kind of things in the year before that they started challenging for the title as well.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Because look at the Arsenal when they finished fifth, right, when we pipped them to fourth. Quite a number of times that season they were like, nah, this Arsenal team, no chance are they equipped to challenge for the title.
Well, they lost, I remember early in the season, opening day, they lost 2-0 to Brentford, they lost 5-0 to City. I remember even in the run-in, they lost that game against Newcastle where they fell apart, didn't they? Where
3-0 to us.
3-0 to us. So they also had their moments in the next season. I even say when Pep, this year before they were Centurions, they lost 4-0 to Everton, I remember the year before.
Yep.
So it happens, and you just got to ride that storm.
Absolutely. Madders THFC says Emerson is starting for us in the North London derby again.
No, he's ready. Come on, Emerson. I hope he doesn't start, but if he does, he's going to be all for it. Is there anything creative we can do on right back? Maybe put Sarr there or something. But Kulusevski there. But I do think it is going to be Emerson. I thought he was. We didn't even rate him, did we?
No.
We probably should have because he actually came on quite early.
Yeah, he did. He was actually our first sub.
He was. I didn't think he was very good, but. That's how forgettable he was. Couldn't even remember he played.
Dan Yidvid says that's 2 wins from Spurs' last 10 away games, not good enough. And yeah, we highlighted this in the review and the takeaways, and it's completely spot on.
Yeah, but as I say as well, away form, that's the hardest thing to get right because that's very, very tricky. Home advantage is difficult to deal with, and especially you're going to hard grounds like St James's Park, and Newcastle have a great home record. It's not going to be easy going there. You're not going to turn that up there and play your best football all the time. But having said that, 2 wins away from home in the last 10, that can't be something that carries on for too much longer.
Yeah. SM says 2 weeks of no Tottenham. Look at this meme.
And we are all for it. No, I'm joking. Yeah, look, it's not been the best recently, especially after yesterday. We could all do a break. The problem is we had a 2-week break. I think Barnaby made this point. Are we the worst team when we've got a 2-week break coming up, honestly? After the Fulham game, he was asked, are you looking forward to that break or something? He said, yeah, we're going to need it after how we played. And then the same thing happens yesterday.
A few weeks later.
Yeah, exactly. So that's got to be a concern.
Yeah, it is a concern. What was our game after Fulham? What was the game? Was that Palace?
I think we beat Palace 3-1, was it?
It was Palace, I think.
Yeah. Or was it Villa? Fulham. Oh no, Luton at home.
Oh, was it Luton?
Oh, Fulham was after Villa, and then Luton at home, then West Ham, Forest, then Newcastle.
Fair enough. Luca THFC saying, Ange says, all right, mates, let's win this game. We need some goals from you three. Do you understand? And this is what Werner, Son and Jonathan say.
Yeah, they were pretty ineffective, to be honest. Probably, I would never compare them to these three, but it's hard not to when they put in the performance they did yesterday.
Yeah, let's move on. Son7_GOAT says, Heung-min. And this is Heung-min, I think, at full-time whistle yesterday.
Yeah, at least he came over to the fans, which is, Sonny, he's always going to appreciate the fans.
What was left of the fans anyway.
Yeah, well, the fans are in the gods, hard to see them a lot of the time. So fair play to Sonny, but a tough day yesterday. But a lot of teams in that situation, a lot of them just go straight down the tunnel, don't they? At least Sonny just shows it. You see Maddison there holding his hands up like that.
What an effort for the fans, though. 12:30 kickoff up at Newcastle.
Difficult. And to
Paddy
see
Power says, Big Dan burn on Bentancur in his own box and VAR. Nah, nothing in it.
We didn't mention that in the review. I don't know why that wasn't given a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been given a penalty, but
It was weird. It was at 2-0. It was just before half time, wasn't it? Bentancur gets Aaron Byrne.
Yeah.
Byrne kicks him.
Yeah.
And you know what's the most frustrating thing? Maddison did the same thing in the second half. And they gave him a yellow card and a free kick. So I don't understand. That should have been a penalty. And you never know. Maybe
there was
it's
a couple
2-1.
of moments I questioned the ref yesterday, being like, why is that not a booking and then you book another player for something even less? I don't understand it. There was a couple of weird moments from the referee yesterday, but I don't think you can say the result would have gone any other way.
Well, look, you never
because
know.
of
We
these
get a
decisions.
goal. We get a goal back in at 2-0, and maybe we're back in the game. But it was very, very odd. No, obviously you can't blame that because we got absolutely battered on the day. But it was, at that moment, I think it was just after we scored the second goal. I think Vicario played that long ball forward, and Bentancur was through. He heads it. I think, did he head it past the keeper, or there was a mistake? He gets to the ball first, and Byrne takes him out. And the
They
VAR
don't get penalties. They don't
VAR
give us
didn't
penalties.
look. VAR
They don't
didn't
give
even
us
look at it.
penalties.
VAR,
We've had
VAR.
one penalty all season.
I thought maybe it was outside the box. Maybe that's why VAR didn't give it. But then people are saying it was inside the box. So I don't understand why that wasn't given.
Moonchild says, putting that shit on the Tottenham captain, may God strike you down. And this is in reply to the Bleach report, saying after getting thrashed by Newcastle, Tottenham's Champions League hopes will get boosted by Arsenal beating top four rivals Villa on Sunday and Arsenal beating Bayern in the Champions League to help England's coefficient in the fifth spot awkward. And look, I've said it many a time, I prefer Arsenal to drop than Spurs to get Champions League for next season. So come on Villa today, that's what I'm saying.
Massively. And come on Bayern as well. Don't care. It's going to, as I said, it's going to take a lot more than a coefficient place for me to want Arsenal to win in the Champions League, that's for sure.
I don't think it will take anything. Like, what could it possibly take for you to want Arsenal to win in the Champions? There's nothing in the world that can say like that will make you sway that decision.
Yeah,
Nothing.
True.
Ham Tottenham is replying to Spurs officials a tweet saying Isaac scores to yeah.
Yeah, we all felt like that, I think, yesterday. I think we all needed a moment to ourselves.
And next up, Kev saying, this is a quote from Ange saying, that was a tough day, Ange, but apart from the 4-0 loss, I thought the boys played some really good stuff. Is that what he actually said?
No, he's taking the piss out of the interviewer.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is that what the interviewer said? Or
he's taking because he always does that after like a defeat. Oh, even though it was bad defeat, it was some good stuff. And then Ange gets really pissed off at him. So I think he's just making
I love Milesy, yeah. I love him. But he's not the greatest interviewer.
Well, what I would say is Ange doesn't seem to like him. I think that's clear.
But I've seen like even stuff like from James Maddison seems to get the hump about stuff he asks as well, and it's just like maybe it's best just to keep Ben Haynes on these kind of things.
Maybe. I'm not going to go too far into it, but he definitely has, like, after a defeat, he like maybe it's because he's hired by the clubs. They're always trying to tell him, look, put a positive spin on it, like try and get something positive, because after a bad defeat they need something to hang on to. And he always tries to like say like, oh, it was a bad defeat, but we showed fight, didn't we, Ange? Yeah. And Ange's like, just go away, like, we were shit today. He wants to say it, you can say it, but he can't say it.
Yeah. Harry Brooks replying to a tweet saying, why can't Son hold on to the ball? And he says, this isn't new. He's never been able to. His combination plays has always been below par, and he's never been able to change pace of attacks. But it wasn't a huge issue before because attacks rarely went through him. He was on the end of them. Now, far too many go through him.
Yeah, and that's obviously... that's where two of the goals came from for Newcastle. Attack was going through Son, and he gave the ball away. That's absolutely right. So I do think on occasions like yesterday, or maybe Son needs to stop coming deep and needs to be nearer to the box, but then someone has to be filling in that space, somewhere, whether it be Maddison or whoever it is. So that is definitely a problem, and definitely did hurt us yesterday. It's not to say that you can't play up front, but yesterday he definitely hindered us in that position. I can't ignore that, and there are some games where that can happen, and it definitely did happen yesterday.
Yeah. Harry Brooks saying it's poor defending, but it comes from Son's really poor combination play, edge of the box once again. I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. Lack of 1v1 profile is not the biggest issue. It's players who can't combine edge of the box to retain final third possession and open teams up. Yeah,
and that is also something that we don't talk about enough, I think, and something we need, because we talk about in that midfield, obviously we love Saar, Bentancur, all these players, but when we get into play a low block, right, it's only really Maddison who's looking to combine, play little 1-2s, trying to open teams up centrally. that's why I feel like sometimes we do need that extra like number 10 like with next to Maddison sometimes, and to really put pressure on the opposition. Sometimes we're just too easy to keep out because the wingers, they also don't like combining 1-2. They like to go on the outside and put balls in. They don't like coming in. Decky's the only one who does like to do that. But then he's not doing the winger stuff. So it's a difficult balance at the moment.
I've said it time and time again though, like against low blocks, why not play a Kulusevski or a Lo Celso alongside Maddison in that middle of the park? Give us that double
I think it would
threat.
help.
And the one time that we did do that at Villa at home, we looked so creative and so dangerous. So I don't understand why we haven't tried it since then.
Yeah, and at the moment we just seem to lack ideas sometimes when we're trying to break teams down, and we only have Maddison to look at.
Yeah. Nathan Clark says, in the Fulham game, we were limited by Dragushin's discomfort on the left. Against West Ham, we missed only Richarlison as a target in the box. But today, we had all the necessary tools for the job, but we were simply outperformed tactically and individually by our opponents.
Yeah, and that's the concern, isn't it? That you can't give any sort of excuses as to why we weren't at our best. We had pretty much our best 11, and we were completely outclassed. And that's the biggest red flag, obviously.
Yeah. Athletic says 95 seconds. Mickey van der Ven will not want to relive, and that was obviously the 2 goals where he slipped for. Yes, other players did play him into trouble and left him with a thankless task to really recover that ball, but he does slip at the vital moments.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. It's very unlike Van der Ven. Someone said he was wearing sandals on the day. I wonder if he changed his boots at half-time after those slips. But
there were many players slipping, like Udogie was slipping as well. Like there was something going on there. Maybe the Newcastle players had extra long studs in their boots.
They watered the grass, the bastards.
Yeah. Joe Tomlinson says, well, he doesn't say anything. He just has a picture of Van der Ven with his face planted on the
Everyone
ground.
wants a bit of because he's had such a good season. So as soon as he has one bad game, everyone wants to pile in, don't they?
And last but not least, Billy T says, favourite thing about watching Spurs is when we have the ball and it goes to a replay, and when the replay finishes, the other side are through on goal. That mystery of not knowing quite how we fucked it is what keeps me alive.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened with that opening goal. They were showing the replay of the first goal, and literally they cut back. It's like Gordon's about to shoot and scores. What the hell just happened? Like, oh, for God's sake! How many times that happened as a Spurs fan?
So many.
It's happened so many times.
So many.
Honestly,
Probably more than any other team in the history of the Premier
we must have a
League.
record for most goals scored while the replay of the first goal was bloody being shown. I bet you.
Yeah, well, I guess that is it from us today. I'm just checking if there's any more. No, there's not. But a quick update is that Liverpool have 20 minutes to go and they are 1-0 down to Crystal Palace at Anfield.
They missed so many chances. I can't quite believe they're not level yet. But we'll see in the last 20 minutes. We need them because otherwise Arsenal getting a big advantage in the title race.
Yeah, obviously Man City played yesterday, right?
They did.
Man City 5-1 against
5-1.
Luton, that was it.
Come on,
but
Liverpool.
here come Liverpool.
Let's get an equaliser. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if
Liverpool
Palace
have looked so unconvincing in recent weeks.
But they've been great. From what I've seen, I think in the first half it seemed as though Palace had a lot of chances. But I've been watching it a bit here, and it looks like they've had a lot of chances, Liverpool, and Henderson's had a mad game in the second half.
And Fulham are 2-0 up away at West Ham.
Wow.
Andreas Pereira scoring 2 goals.
Another goal for Pereira. Fair play.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there, guys. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. We'll be back tomorrow for some more Spurs content for you guys. And that was your therapy and post-mortem from yesterday's 4-0 defeat at St James's Park. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.